Well, I was going to start this talk by saying that I have a confession to make, that I'm not actually a health professional, but Gillian, you said that already. So I have a fine arts background. I studied photography in Dunedin in New Zealand 15 years ago, and I wanted to be an artist. And I ended up photographing my cousin's wedding. I fell in love with wedding photography, and I've been a wedding and portrait photographer for the last decade. And I do have another confession, actually. I never actually wanted to be a mother. I just didn't think I was up to it. The idea of being a modern mum actually terrified me. I didn't think I could cope with systems or schooling or anything with structure. I needed freedom, and parenthood just didn't feel like that was quite the way for me. So when I found out I was pregnant, I actually made my husband stay home from work. And he called in saying that there had been a family emergency, which is exactly what it felt like. That wasn't the plan. I'd set up this business, things were going well, I was doing life, and then this happened, and this was definitely a major traumatic experience for me. So our worlds connect the day that Evie Amor Callander was born by caesarean section in Dunedin Hospital. And it was just the most incredible experience. We had the most perfect 6 or so hours with her, relishing the experience of being a family of 3 for the first time. But Evie choked when we tried to feed her by syringe. She had a very small mouth, and she was rushed upstairs to the NICU by a nurse. And this was extremely traumatic. I was groggy and drugged from my caesarean, and the NICU ward was a whole floor above where I was recovering. So I didn't hear or see her or hear about her until the next morning, when our paediatrician and our midwife came to see us. And they told us that overnight some tests had been done on Evie and that they had some serious concerns about her. They told us that she had Edwards syndrome, trisomy 18, and that these conditions were incompatible with life, that there would certainly be developmental delays, and that actually we might need to prepare ourselves to say goodbye to our beautiful daughter who we just met. And of course, this information just sent us spinning into a world of chaos and trauma, and all of the excitement from the day before just came crashing down around us. We had fallen completely in love with Evie and saw her as a new soul in the world, full of potential. As it turns out, that Evie didn't actually have partial trisomy 18. The doctors actually did some more testing on her, and the new test revealed that she had partial trisomy 9 and partial monosomy 6. And that didn't mean anything to me at all. And again, they told us that these conditions meant there would be developmental delays, severe mental retardation, and again, that this condition was incompatible with life. And these words are very confronting. I didn't even know how to spell partial trisomy. I didn't even know what that meant. And I was emailing my family, and I was trying to write what I thought these paediatricians were telling me, and I was getting it all wrong, and I didn't understand. But we saw her as just this most beautiful, incredible soul. And from these photos, you can see that life was hard with Evie. We had some extremely stressful situations where her life often hung in the balance. But actually looking after her and being her mum was kind of easy at the same time. There was a lot of freedom because I just poured everything into her. I loved her so much, and she brought out the best in me as a mum. Over time, as Evie grew, and this is exciting because she was growing, and we felt that she was developing, and she just blew us away constantly with her strength and her determination to survive. But as she grew, we noticed that she was responding to particular environments which made us think that she was experiencing life a little differently to other people. So for example, whenever we drove on a piece of road between my town and where my mum lived, we had to drive under electrical pylons. There were a large number of them, and every time we came up to this road, she would, sorry, I'm choking on pieces of awesomeness over here. I'm a little bit nervous. But we would notice that she would cry on this piece of road, and sometimes it would wake her up. And then we noticed that this was happening in supermarkets and anywhere there were electric sliding doors. And it was as if she had an electromagnetic sensitivity that was unique to her. And I started saying that she had superpowers as a light-hearted way to describe this particular phenomenon. You know, kind of like a baby Magneto off X-Men or something cool like that. So that was where that language came from. And then I realized that her entire character and the things she was teaching me and everyone who came in contact with her was really profound. So she had such incredible strength and bravery. She had this ability to draw people in. She had this magnetism. People just loved being around her. Her fragility and her pure joy disarmed people and made them want to come close to her. She evoked a level of care and love that people hadn't experienced before. And even down to how she got around, scooting on the floor on her back. All these things made Evie unique, and I referred to them all as her superpowers. And at the beginning, I thought this was kind of a light-hearted way to describe her electromagnetism, but then I let this language sink into myself, and I realized that this is really profound, and these aren't light-hearted words, because it helped me balance the level of, or the deficit language often reached for when describing disability and of conditions. And it had even bigger impact when I shared this language with other people, because I was constantly faced with what's wrong with her questions. You know, people could see that she looked a little bit different, and that's often the way that we do things in our culture. And I was able to flip it around. When people said, what's wrong with her? I could say, well, actually nothing. She has superpowers. And they would say, what? What do you mean? And then I got to frame the conversation in a way that I wanted. I could draw out the things that she loved doing. I could talk about the way that she was impacting me. I could talk about her as a person rather than a collection of failing body parts which didn't inform them about Evie at all. And this was a really, really big key moment for me. And it made me feel so proud of her, and it helped connect her to humanity, and she became a beautiful part of our community. And there she is. At one point, I was asked to fill out a needs assessment form. I don't know if you guys have these in Australia. Yes, I'm nodding. And this form is actually really positive because it gauges the level of support a family might need, medical, financial, or otherwise. But at the time when I had to fill out this form, I was a mess. I was broken because I filled out this form and I couldn't tick a single answer to any of the questions that were on that form. So this form actually broke me, because it gave me such a sense of hopelessness. Because I had the feeling that when I handed in this form, empty with no ticks, that the person at the other end, although it might mean that we'd get some more support financially, medical or otherwise, that they would see maybe that Evie was a person of no value, that she couldn't do anything, that she was just this blob. And I hated not being able to tick anything because it didn't reflect how I felt about her. She was so awesome to me, and she was so full of life and vibrancy. So this form it broke me. So I had a cry, and then I decided, actually, you know what? I'm going to make up my own form and hand it in with this official one. You know, just in case it might have some impact down the other end, and maybe they might change the questions, I don't know. So I'm going to show you what this, my official form looked like. It's very basic. It's just a piece of paper, but it says Evie's awesomeness. This is my official form. So I'm going to read out some of their questions on my Evie's awesomeness form, which potentially may, be changed in policy over time, hopefully. Question 1. Can your child play Sleeping Tiger and other great games? Yes! Evie loves games and interacts by laughing, kicking, flapping, and moving close to us. And this is a game that Evie and I made up together. So if anyone's interested, I don't have time to explain the game now, but I will do that in the breaks. It's a very awesome game. Does your child laugh when objects fall on or near her face? Very important question. Yes. Evie loves most moving objects, just not helmets, sunglasses, paper or phones. She loves when we drop cushions or soft toys beside her or near her face. She laughs when we move or tip the couch. Can your child play for over 30 minutes in an Exa saucer? Yes. Evie loves being in her saucer and plays with the objects really well. I'm just going to read you one more. Can your child do assisted push-ups holding her head up? Yes. Evie does this really well, using Dad to help her. Her record is 13 in a row. And there she is in her saucer, and there she is reading her favourite book, The Lammaroo. Incidentally, I named my 2 cats Lamb and Roo after that book, so it had a major impact. I've got so many great stories, and I've only got 20 minutes, but I'll tell you this one. I'll just do this one really quick. So this is Evie scooting on the floor on her back, and she learned how to feed herself with her bottle. And one of our major concerns was as Evie was scooting on the floor, she'd wear her hair out. So the man who makes the headgear for the All Blacks got a call from our OT, and he made this little headgear for her, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. Now, this is a cool little thing. I know you can't really read it so well. So this is where my Evie's awesomeness document has gone and the impact it's having. So I've spoken to a few health conferences of all sorts of varieties. And this is a speech and language therapist who has made an awesomeness report part of her clinical practice. And this is the result. I'm just going to quickly read it so you can see it. So it's literally a paragraph on the end of an official report. And the mother of the child responded so well to this addition to the report and feels a new sense of pride in her child, new eyes to see other areas of development, not only limited to areas of speech and language, but of character and personality. This tiny addition to the paperwork, an extra minute in discussion around how this child brings joy to the family and focus time on celebrating who the child is as a person, has given this family so much hope, encouragement, and a deeper relationship and trust in her specialist. And then since making these awesomeness reports on the flip side, that speech and language therapist has new energy for her job. She's more connected to the reasons why she became a speech and language therapist in the first place. And she is just feeling so empowered in her role. And there's a lot of trust. Her relationships are better. It's so awesome. It's so simple. Sadly, Evie's life wasn't long. She was completely compatible with life, just not as long as we hoped for. We had 2.5 incredible years with her. And in her short yet remarkable life, Evie inspired a dream, her legacy, the Superpower Baby Project. And the dream was to travel around New Zealand to meet and photograph other children with genetic syndromes and to discover their unique superpowers and photograph them and present them in a beautiful art book. So I travelled all over New Zealand, met these amazing families. I sat down with them, listened to their stories, met their amazing child and photographed them. And the images just emerged from the naturalness of the experience. These kids were so much fun, and I was telling some of you earlier, this was the happiest time of my life, meeting these beautiful children and connecting to them. I'm going to run out of time. I'm so sorry. Okay. They're telling me I'm fine, but I've just got like a 5-minute slideshow. I may end up skipping the slideshow, even though that's the piece. Okay, I love you guys. All right, well, now I have a beautiful slideshow. This is when you snuggle in and you are just, hopefully just feel the life and the vibrancy of these kids just pouring out at the screen. It's okay to cry, but there's happy tears, yeah? Okay, all right, here we go. I may have just screwed that up, I'm not sure. Techie people. Do I need to go back one? Oh. There should be music, but we'll see if we can get that going. If not, it's okay. So these words on the side are words from the parents. is Billy. He just loves pumice and had the softest hands in the world. Can you read that? How does he fit so much amazingness into such a tiny body? So good. Here we go. what are the words that come to mind after seeing those photographs? Life, yeah, ability, joy, love, probably so many other amazing ones, right? And I think it's so sad because I think the words that we've been given, and maybe because of the medical profession to describe disability, are words like retarded, incompatible with life, malformed, abnormal, and even disabled. Like, these words take potential and ability away. They're very subtractive. And it astounded me on my travels when I was interviewing the parents. They used words like unconditional love, perseverance, joy, empathy. They were multiplying words. They were huge words. And it dawned on me that these are some of humanity's highest values and what the world needs most right now. And these children, these beautiful children, are the teachers of these values. And I think potentially, what we associate with the word disability actually shows up the deficits in our culture that doesn't celebrate and encourage all humanity, no matter what it looks like. And I think also in our relentless obsession with perfection, we are reducing our own capacity to embrace those really important values. This is a form that I was given to take home after Evie was born to help me. I know, right? And I do have something to read to you because I pored over every single word in this document and this new reality as a parent with a child that nobody really could understand or tell me about. And I was looking for any kind of anchor point, any kind of hope, any kind of vision for my future. And all I found was disconnect and terror. I mean, I only understood 80% of the words in this form, and the other ones, they terrified me. So I'm going to read you a little paragraph here. It's just a little comparison, because the doctors said that, this child is the closest to Evie that they'd found, and that this could be helpful for me. Because I didn't believe that the words in this form actually sounded like they belonged to a human being. The patient has dysmorphic features. The nose is long, fleshy, slightly beaked. The eyes are deep-seated. The mouth is small and triangular. The chin is small and receding. The ears are relatively large and square with abnormal folding. The neck is short with redundant skin folds. Ew, redundant skin folds. The trunk is asymmetric, the right side being more prominent. The extremities are thin and the fingers and toes unusually long and thin. She has a weak, hoarse cry. The tone is poor. She has stereotypical writhing movements of the arms and legs in an avoidance manner. The main features of the syndrome include mental retardation, microcephaly, prominent forehead, prominent nose, blah, 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 big words, big words. And this form described the features of my daughter so similar to this girl. The features that I loved the most. Like, I loved her sparkly eyes and her delicate fairy fingers and her little button nose. And this was devastating to me. And all I had was the internet. Like, no one helped me make sense of this form. Because I felt the chasm between how I saw my daughter and how the medical world did. And it was really big. These are the children that will push you as professionals to your absolute potential. These are the ones that will inspire cutting-edge technologies and therapies if they're celebrated as they are as human beings. So many parents told me of negative feelings they had towards their doctor because of the first words spoken after a diagnosis. And that little phrase, "first do no harm," comes to mind. Often it's in those first words that they'll help or harm the way a parent navigates their future. And the words used, I think, breaks down the very important relationship between a professional and a parent. And I think sometimes it appears from a parent's point of view, or even from your point of view, this hierarchy, whereas I feel like we need to be allies. Silvio. And here's a little takeaway. So how do you actually communicate to a parent such big medical information and hard information? So I've designed this little open-hearted language matrix, and I'm going to explain it to you. So in the positive jargon quadrant here, we have fluffy and irrelevant words. And you're laughing because this is true, right? This happens, and this is not uncommon. And this actually, well, being very well-meaning, it actually makes a person feel unheard and dismissed. You know, phrases like, God only gives special kids to special parents. Doesn't really help the situation at all. And in our jargon negative quadrant, there's just confusion, and it creates a lack of trust. So medicalized metaphors, you need to make sure they're understood, because we had a pediatrician who came to explain to me the nature of chromosomes, and I was exhausted. I was still recovering from anesthetic, and he came in to me to tell me about this partial trisomy 9, partial monosomy 6, and he was telling me about the long arm and the short arm and the chromosome and the blah, blah, blah and the thing. And I thought he was telling me that Evie had short arms. I did. I seriously did. And this just spun me out, because I was thinking, on top of everything else that I've just heard that's going wrong with my daughter, now you're saying that she has short arms. And I thought they looked perfectly longish to me. And it made me feel stupid. And then I decided then and there that I didn't like this pediatrician at all, because he made me feel stupid, just in the way that he presented this information. And I felt like if I asked more questions, I was wasting his time. And if I didn't understand his metaphor, then that was on me. That was my fault. And that sucked for him, because he's a very, very important person in our relationship. He's got great knowledge. It just didn't come across. And then we have informative negative. And this is where you get the soul-destroying powerlessness feelings. So phrases like incompatible with life, mental retardation, abnormal, disabled, negative descriptions. So incompatible with life, basically, what is there left? It's saying that this person has no value, they have no right to be here, there's nothing. A better way of saying something on that would be life-limiting. Life is the focus. It may be limited, but in all honesty, we all have life-limiting conditions. It's called being human. We're all life-limited. We don't know when our life is about to end. And when we have positive informative, this is where open-hearted language sits, and this is when a person really feels empowered. And this is when information is delivered with kindness, with warmth. The information is disclosed clearly and with respect. And I'm going to leave you with one little story. We were in Starship Hospital in Auckland, which is the most incredible paediatric hospital in New Zealand. And we had a really tough decision to make. Evie had been intubated. We didn't know if they took the tube out she was going to survive, and the chief of surgery came to talk to us to give us our options, and she told us about tracheotomies. And she made sure that she saw us at a time that we were feeling refreshed and that we'd slept. And she came and she explained everything about tracheotomies, the pros, the cons, what was going to happen. No question was silly. So we got a real clear picture of what life would look like. And then she said this thing to me, which just blew my mind. And she said, just because we can doesn't mean that we should. So that put the power back in our hands as parents to go, what actually feels right for us? What is our value system? What is right for Evie? And she also made it clear that whatever we chose wasn't the wrong answer, that we weren't bad parents for choosing yes or no. And that was huge. That was just beautiful. And in the end, we chose not to intervene. And Evie came through, and she was okay. But from that moment on, I felt a new sense of empowerment and a new sense of respect, and that allyship between myself as a parent and my medical professionals. I've run so much over time. Thank you for giving me a little bit extra. I do have my books outside if you want to come and have a look at them, and they are available. They are being used in clinics all over the world, and that's just amazing. I'm also offering training programs in hospitals to medical professionals around this open-hearted language, and it's just incredible. Just this little life has been the most incredible legacy for my own life and for others, and it's a privilege to be standing here with you. You incredible people. Thank you so much for having me.
Rachel, I think by the response and the warm response from everyone listening today, it goes without saying that we thank you for sharing your story and your insight and your wisdom. Again, the Twitter responses were quite fast-flowing. We'd like to share with you just a couple of these lovely warm responses.
Thank you.
Yeah, so initially it was all really quiet because everyone was captivated by your story and your beautiful baby's story. And everyone just wanted to thank you for sharing this beautiful perspective with us. If I could give you all the comments, we'd be here all day. So I'm just going to read out a few because you really deserve it. So Ruth Coleman, thank you, Rachel, for sharing your story. It's a good reminder to consider the way our jargon is interpreted. Nicola Campbell, the power of words, describing Evie's superpowers rather than using deficit language. That was really empowering and inspiring. Jen Sloan, awesomeness, a new clinical indicator on working with children with disabilities. And Action Emma said, we all need to add an awesomeness report to our work and personal lives. And Katie Reeves said her take-home message is, I am going to now ask my chronic illness patients and their families about their children's superpowers. So thank you for that.
Awesome.
And then just to mirror how everyone was feeling when you were showing the slideshow, and I thought, my God, I'm just going to cry and it's going to look really bad. So everyone... And it was a resounding feeling on Twitter that there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And Harry Horton said, I'm choking on pieces of awesomeness. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.